Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to look at another collaboration beer, and this one is half Swedish on the home side, half American on the away side. The Swedish brewery I've reviewed a couple of beers from, this might be my fourth review or so involving them, and the American brewery is one that I've never encountered before, so always cool to introduce you to new breweries here on the channel. So for this review then we are going to go up to Örebro, which is a bit out to the west of Stockholm, a couple of hours north of me here in Lund in the south of Sweden, and we're having a look at another beer from Örebro Bryghus, and this one is a collaboration with Lamplighter Brewing Company, who come from Cambridge in Massachusetts over in America, in New England, home of course to Harvard University. The beer itself is called the Fruit Kveik, and it is a fruit beer according to Untappd, coming in at 5.5% ABV. But as you might recognise with the name Kveik, this one has one of these Norwegian farmhouse yeasts in it, and they're lovely. They really give you some very, very interesting fruity qualities. But this beer has apricot puree, ananas puree and mango puree in it as well. So apricot, pineapples and mango puree. So I think this one will be a really quite interesting beer. As I've told you before, Örebro Bryghus, I've had a couple of like Berliner Weisses and things from these guys that have turned out very nicely. I'm not sure whether this beer is going to lean towards the kind of sour side of things or exactly what it has in store, but you know, it's a brewery that I've had good experiences with in the past, and I just thought this one sounded really interesting. The Kveik ales were all the rage maybe about kind of 6 months, a year ago, and it seems to have dropped off a little bit, but as I say, it's something that I always enjoyed, and when I saw this one I thought I need to have a go at that. So this one was released through Systembolaget on was this the local one? I can't remember if this was one of the small partiers or whether it was one of the local and småskaligt assortments, but it was released in February of 2020 through Systembolaget here in Sweden earlier on in the month. So looking forward to trying this one. I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer, and I'm very curious to see what it has in store. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Örebro Bryghus before, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Lamplighter Brewing Company, the very first time I'm encountering those guys, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefetch, or whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the American beers. Both of those lists are being added to very regularly, of course, and this beer will appear in both because it's half and half. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Örebro Bryghus first off then, since these guys are the home brewery, on to my brewery notes. So Örebro Bryghus, as I've told you before, are based in the Apsholmen industrial estate in Örebro, and the company is run by Anders Grabberg, Jesper Palm and Christopher Mattiasson. In total there's 8 co-owners of the company, and the brewing is done by Jesper and Christopher, both of whom are qualified brewers, and they previously worked for Närke Kulturbryggeri as well, who are one of the older breweries in Sweden actually, and they brew a lot of traditional styles. Definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But Anders, he worked for 14 years at Systembolaget as well, so had a very kind of broad knowledge on the different types of alcohol and things like that you could get, as well as the sort of bureaucracy that is required in Sweden to get your beers into Systembolaget, the state-owned alcohol shops. But in 2012 they got the ideas to start their own company, and they first introduced their beers into Systembolaget back in 2016. In the brewery they've got a brew kit from the UK which can brew 2,000 litres at a time, and as of 2017 they had an annual capacity of around 200,000 litres of beer per year. In August of 2018 they opened up their tap room, which is called Örebro Öl Cafe, the Örebro Beer Cafe, and over the last few years they've been continuing to grow their capacity, brewing a lot of collaboration beers such as this one, and they've also been visiting a good number of beer festivals as well. I saw on the beernews.se website that they'd been to Helsinki, and also to Paris and things. So these guys have been kind of getting around a little bit and getting their name out there a little bit more. But as of February 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 40 different types of beers, and that's my experience with them so far. Is they get a recipe together and they really work at it and perfect it, rather than kind of throwing lots of beers out there at the same time. But I've had a few regular beers from these guys, as well as the sours and fruit beers, but I think and the regular ones were good, but I think it was probably more the sour and fruit beers that really struck me. So if you're interested in like Berliner Weisses and fruit beers and stuff like that, Örebro Bryghus are one of the Swedish breweries that you definitely want to check out. If you like the likes of Fermenterarna, Morgendagens, and things like that, then this is a brewery that you definitely want to check out as well. And some of the, I think Dugas Brewery as well, if you like some of their fruitier beers, you will enjoy some of the stuff that Örebro have coming out now. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Örebro Bryghus for the moment. Hopefully I can get up there at some point and take a little look at their tap room. That would be an awesome out and about video to film for you, but we'll need to see how we can do that. I've heard that Örebro and Västerås and things like that, that area out to the west of Stockholm, I've heard that's a very nice part of Sweden. I've only been to Stockholm and to Uppsala, so hopefully the next time I'm up there I can go and take a little look out west and see what's going on there. But yeah, cool to return to these guys. If you want to learn more about the brewery itself, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's move on to the American side of things then, Lamplighter Brewing Company. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, Lamplighter Brewing Company are based in Cambridge in Massachusetts in New England, over on the east coast of America, and they were founded back in 2014 by A.C. Jones and Kayla Marvel. So the brewery is housed in a 10,000 square foot space. I don't know why Americans still don't use the metric system. It's really annoying when you make these notes, but this space used to be a car mechanics that was called Metric Systems, ironically, but they decided to lease the building back in 2015 rather than sell it, and so the brewery moved in and kind of redeveloped it, if you like. But the two guys, they studied at Middlebury up in Vermont. One of my friends, Hannah, studied up there. But AC studied molecular biology and biochemistry, and before going on to study brewing technology at the Siebel Institute. Kayla studied maths, and she also holds a culinary degree in French food and also an associate's degree in brewing technology from Siebel as well, which she studied at the same time as AC. They opened their brewery tap room in late 2016, and over the last few years they've doubled their capacity and added a second tap room at the back of the brewery as well. Apparently this was an old storage room that they converted, but if you look at the pictures of it, it looks really very nice actually. But they also have a partner coffee shop which is called Longfellow's, and I believe this is on site as well. The current head brewer is Tyler Fitzpatrick, and they brew a lot of like New England IPAs and sours. Apparently they have a collection of 100 or so different barrels that they're using for aging all of these sour beers and things like that. But Tyler apparently spends hours researching new recipes, and this means that they do have quite a high output of different beers and things. And as of February 2020, when I'm filming this beer review for you, according to Untappd, Lamplighter have produced 180 different kinds of beer, which is pretty impressive when they've only really been open around, 2017, 2018, they've only really been open for 3 full years actually, because we're just getting into 2020. They opened at the end of 2016. So 180 beers, 60 beers a year, at least one a week, I think that's pretty damn impressive, to be honest. And they seem to be getting a lot of plaudits for that kind of style of stuff as well. But they do have lots of different styles in there. The article that I read was from one of the Boston magazines, was saying that Tyler was brewing like My Box and things like that. He really likes to experiment with different styles and learn how to brew them and stuff. So yeah, a really interesting little brewery, this one. As I always say, check out the brewery website if you want to learn more. This is the first time I've heard of this brewery over here in Europe. So hopefully we hear a little bit more about them. Maybe this collaboration will help them get their name out there a little bit more. But I think they said in the article that they do want to kind of remain a local brewery, so I'm not sure. Maybe I will have to visit these guys on my New England trip that I'm having in sort of August, September time. We'll need to see about that. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Lamplighter Brewing Company for the moment. Cool to introduce another new brewery to you here on the channel. Check out the brewery website in the description below. Again, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to get more information on all the different beers that they do. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is a little bit more typical of Örebro Bryghus, which is understandable because that's obviously where this beer has been produced. There you can see on the back, that is the symbol for Örebro Bryghus, and you can see here is the symbol for Lamplighter, which is pretty cool. Obviously a reference to the people that used to go around the old towns and, you know, with the actual sticks and manually light the lamps. Kind of an interesting one, that. But yeah, this one apparently is best before the 25th of November 2020, and yeah, you know, nicely presented. 440ml can. I'm not even going to try and figure out what that is in this whole crazy fluid ounce system that America has. Just guys, just change to the metric system. Everybody else uses it. But yeah, always like making fun of that when I do American brewery reviews involving American breweries. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. As I said, this was released through Systembolaget on the I don't know if this was a local and småsigligt one or whether it was one of the tillfälligt assortment, whether it was a small partier, but regardless it came out in February 2020. And as I said, 5.5% Kveik fruit beer, this one, with apricot, pineapples and mango in the brew. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this. So yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely kind of bright yellow colour. It really just looks like mango or pineapple juice or something like that, which, you know, isn't surprising. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this beer, you know, is pretty damn opaque. There's no hiding from that. The head was about a quarter finger. That's just faded away to be a very thin foamy layer. I would say that it was perfect white. Although it may have been a little bit creamy, we'll never know because it's faded away, of course. But I mean, overall, there's nothing too surprising about the appearance of this beer. Normally, the Kveik IPAs and Kveik ales and stuff like this were always very hazy and things, because the Kveik yeast is a Norwegian farmhouse yeast, of course. I think it's from Voss, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, as I say, nothing too surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. It just looks like a kind of standard New England IPA these days. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. I'm really curious about this. Oh yeah, straight away with this one, you really get that farmhousey note in there, that sort of herbal, vegetal, woody kind of thing. That really forms the base of this beer. I've really, you know, when I first encountered these sort of farmhouse yeasty kind of notes, and I think the first beer that I actually tried that had this sort of thing in it, I think it actually might well have been Heady Topper from The Alchemist. I think it was that one, and I thought, you know, what is going on with this aroma here? I wasn't too keen on the whole farmhouse thing when I first encountered it, but it's really grown on me over the last little while, and I still find the aroma a little bit strange, but you get some really beautiful flavours out of these you know, out of these farmhouse yeasts. And I mean, the old Norwegian farmhouse ales, you used to get ones that were like, they had smoke in them and juniper, you know, juniper needles and stuff like that, you know. There's a beer from Handbryggeriet in Drammen in Norway that was a Norwegian farmhouse ale. It's called Norwegian Wood, and that is one of the kind of oldest, more modern examples of a Norwegian farmhouse ale. The Kveik yeast, as I say, they've been taken off a little bit more in Norway in recent times, but we get some of them down here in Sweden. I think so the Danes get some of them as well, but you know, it really is a bit of a kind of craze up there. I need to get some more Norwegian beers and review those for you on the channel. I'd love to get more into these Kveik beers, because the aroma of this is very nice. But yeah, you can really smell that. It smells like the beer has a kind of woody base to it. There's a little bit of a kind of it's more vegetal than herbal, to be honest. You can really smell that in there, and that forms the kind of backbone of the beer. but there's some nice kind of wheaty notes to this one as well. You can really smell a little bit of that white bready quality in there, and it smells like the wheat kind of, it almost jumps out a little bit at you. Sometimes the wheaty notes can be very smooth, but sometimes they can be a little bit more spicy and bitey. For me, they're a little bit more spicy, almost slightly citrusy and bitey as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, that part of the malt base is quite interesting. You might pick up a little bit of a biscuity note out of this one, or cookies for the American viewers. It does have a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuit type thing to it. And that's you get that the more that you smell of it, obviously. But on the hoppy side of things, this one apparently, I think it has Simcoe and Equinaut in it apparently. And you know, Equinaut will always give you some limey notes, but you don't get too much of that in this one, I don't think. I don't detect too much of a limey quality to this. Simcoe, on the other hand, is a very smooth hop that's usually going to give you some nice smooth passion fruity notes. And I do get some of that out of it. You can really pick up some of the Simcoe passion fruity smoothness in there. The passion fruit, of course, is quite a strong fruit in terms of its flavour and aromas normally, but Simcoe, compared to like Galaxy or Idaho 7, for example, the flavour is a lot less kind of pungent and very much more smooth and juicy. So you really get that out of this beer, which is quite nice. A lot of juicy mangoes. You can get a bit of the lighter pineapples as well. The apricot I don't notice so much in this one. Apricot to me, my mum always used to give me apricot yogurts in my lunchbox when I was young, so for me it's more the mangoes and the pineapples and the softness of those that come out, and I do get, as I say, I get the passion fruit from the Simcoe as well. The apricot to me isn't all that obvious in this one, but to other people it might well be. On the hoppy side of things, and as I said, not so much in the way of limey notes as you'd expect from Equinaut. I would say that the green side of the hops leans towards the grassy end of the spectrum. There's a little bit of a floral aromaticity to this one as well, but otherwise it's mainly quite grassy with all those juicy fruits coming out of it. But yeah, it smells like a really kind of typical sort of farmhousey fruit beer, this one. So yeah, curious to see how it turns out. Like, I'm guessing you can probably call this one a Kveik IPA with fruit. That's probably the best style description for this one. But let's have a taste of it then and see how we get on. This one is the Fruit Kveik, a 5.5%, what I think is a Kveik IPA with apricot, mango and pineapple puree added into the brew, from Örebro Bryghus in Örebro out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden, and Lamplighter Brewing from Cambridge in Massachusetts in New England in America. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. That's quite an interesting one. The farmhousey notes really come out in the middle of the palate there, and it really starts to lean towards that kind of woody side of things. I like that though. It does become quite a dry beer. You know, for this, when I think about what style it really is one of the drier farmhousey beers that I've come across in recent times. That's a really interesting point to make about this one. I didn't expect that from it, to be honest. But in the beginning, it's got a lot of nice fruity character to it, and becomes really quite juicy actually. It's a nice beer, that though. We'd like to see them experiment a little bit more with Kveik yeast at or Kveik. I always forget the exact pronunciation of it. I would like to see them experiment with that a little bit more at Örebro Bryghus, because they are very capable when it comes to like fruit and sour beers, as I said. So yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this one down then. So, middle of your palate, you'll feel this nice kind of woody quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue. As you progress further into the aftertaste, you can really feel that it dries out a little bit. You get a nice bit of a... It's not quite grainy, but it's almost a little bit spicy. You can feel there is a little bit of just a kind of spicy note to this one, and you can feel the middle of your palate just drying out with this beer. I was picking up a wee bit of biscuity sweetness in the aroma, but I don't really get that in the pardon me, and the flavour of this one, it's kind of interesting. This beer, the sort of malty, yeasty side of things, comes across quite differently in the flavour than it does in the aroma. So yeah, as you move further forward on the palate, you'll start to get some of the smoother notes out of the wheaty side of the beer. In terms of the in terms of the kind of fruity side of things, it really comes in quite sharp actually, and then it just juices it. It becomes a little bit more juicy the further you go into the aftertaste. This beer also strikes me as being quite crisp, to be honest with you. So there's a few really interesting things going on in this one. As I say, no real biscuity sweetness to this one. The whole middle of your palate really is quite. It's got a woody note to it. You get a bit of grainy quality on top of that, and as you come further forward, it's got a little bit of a softer kind of wheaty quality to it. The malt base is very kind of straight up and flat in that sense. You don't get much in the way of that kind of herbally, vegetally kind of thing out of this. This is one of the less smooth Kveik yeasts I think that I've come across actually. The other ones always tend to be quite, almost a little bit like fluffy and thick in their flavours. This one to me seems a bit drier and more crisp, to be honest. So that's the most kind of, that's the real sort of, how do you say, the sort of crux of this beer, if you like. The yeast in this strikes me as being quite different. On the hoppy side of things then, if you go to the back corners of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness there, and it's quite a strong earthiness actually. It's got quite a bit of oomph to it, if you like. But as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you can feel that spreading forward a little bit, but then it quickly moves to a kind of floral aromatic kind of note there, and then round the very front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy. But the thing is, whenever you add fruit into a beer, it's always going to kind of suppress a little bit of the normal IBUs and things like that you get out of the beer. It pushes back against the floral and the grassy side of things. And I mean, Simcoe I think is about 11% alpha acid. I think the Equinox is normally a bit higher, like 13 or something like that. So normally you would get quite a bit of bitterness out of those hops, but again it does depend on when during the brew you add them. If you add them early on, you'll get a lot of bitterness. If you add them later on, it'll be flavour and aroma that you get. And this beer is not going to have, if you look at the colour of it, it's not going to have a very long boil, to be honest. So yeah, there is a bit of bitterness to this one, but the fruitiness kind of takes over a little bit. You do get a little bit of bitterness from the fruity side of things as well, actually. Yeah, so when you take this one in, as I say, you get a good little bit of fruity sharpness out of this one. It's almost a little touch citricy, but not in the sour sense. It is just a little bit more zesty. But you can feel, if you go to, as I always say, the fruity esters from the hops, they come out in that little oily bubble behind the kind of front curve of your palate there. If you go to the back of that, you can really feel the kind of darker passion fruity notes. And the passion fruit that comes out of this is a bit darker than some of the other ones I've encountered that have had Simcoe in them. As I say, Simcoe has always struck me as quite a soft passion fruity note. But as you come further forward from that, and you push towards the edge of your tongue, you do get quite a strong lime out of this from the Equinox. And that's kind of interesting, because again, that wasn't something that I picked up on in the aroma. I think this beer is quite different to what the aroma would make you think. But like I say, you've got these nice juicy fruity notes coming out of this this beer as well around the edge of the palate. So there's a nice kind of, the mangoes I think are very obvious to me. The pineapple, I think I do the pineapple and the apricot. I think you have to let the flavour progress a little bit to for those flavours to become a bit more obvious. So it's kind of interesting how that all kind of plays out, really. I really like how that how the flavours, kind of the transitions that this beer makes, because as you go further into the aftertaste with this one, you get more of the floral notes, a little bit of the earthiness, and some of the dryness in the middle of the palate, and you've got those lovely juicy fruity qualities in there as well. So I mean, overall this is a really quite interesting beer. I think this would be quite a nice summery beer, to be honest with you, because it does strike me as being quite crisp. If you wanted a little bit of a thicker one, of course, the thing to do would be to stick a little bit of oats in there, but then that might take away from the sort of rawness and ruggedness, if you like, of the Kveik yeast. So yeah, this one's been an interesting one to try. I like beers like this that make me think a little bit, but it strikes me as quite a crisp and slightly more malty and yeastily dry Kveik farmhousey IPA, I guess you could say. I think this one really is an IPA. I think it is a Kveik IPA, but it's just got some fruit added into it as well, because it definitely has some of the bitterness and things that you would expect of a beer. So I think this one you can call it a Kveik / farmhouse IPA with fruit added into it. Yeah, Kveik fruit IPA is probably a good style description for this one, which is what I suspected from the beginning with it. Untappd has this one listed just as a fruit beer, but you know, Untappd isn't kind of peer reviewed and things. Well, it is peer reviewed, but it's not kind of moderated, I don't think, in the way. So I would say that this one is a Kveik fruit IPA. In terms of the mouthfeel then, personally I think this is quite a light-bodied beer. Top end of light-bodied probably. Carbonation is quite crisp in it. The mouthfeel generally I think is quite wet, and as I say, it's quite a crisp, wet feeling beer, this one. Malt base, like I said, is quite, in some degrees it starts off quite smooth, but then it really dries out, and I think the more and more that I drink of this, it's the wheat I think gets a little bit more spicy, which is interesting. On the hoppy side of things, and in terms of bitterness, I think we're talking maybe, I want to say about 40-ish IBUs of this. I think it's a little bit more than the kind of standard 30 that you would get in most modern IPAs. I think it is a little bit more, and I think the passion fruit is given some of that as well. But you've got some nice kind of juicy and slightly citricy fruity notes to this. You've got a little bit of the oily fruits from the hops, like I was saying, the passion fruit and the limey notes, but you've also got a bit of you've also got some of the kind of juicier notes coming from the fruit that's actually been added in, and I think the puree gives it just that little bit of citricy sharpness as well, which is interesting. But I mean, overall, this is quite a nice beer. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I'd love to try it on tap actually and just see if it's that little bit smoother. I think if I was to critique it, I'd say maybe put just a little bit of oats in and help it smooth out and let those flavours kind of blend in, the Kveik flavours blend in with that. But then again, that maybe takes the focus away from the Kveik yeast. There's lots of different strains of that, right enough, so it might just be that this particular strain of Kveik is a little bit drier. But it's an interesting beer, this one. It's cool to try something else from Örebro after quite a wee while, and it's interesting to do my first review involving Lamplighter as well, so hopefully I can try a few more of their beers at some point. We need to see if I can get a hold of those somehow. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really interesting beer this, and I'm glad that I was able to review it for you here on the channel. This one was the Fruit Kveik, coming in at 5.5%, a Kveik fruit IPA with apricot, mango and pineapple puree added to the brew, from Örebro Bryghus in Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden, in collaboration with Lamplighter Brewing from Cambridge in Massachusetts over in America. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Örebro Bryghus and from Lamplighter as well. Hopefully I could return to Lamplighter at some point, but I'm sure you will see more reviews from Örebro Bryghus over the next little while. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Check out my social media and you can look forward to more reviews very, very soon. Cheers.